there has been a growing debate in the world of investment on the value of private companies versus publicly traded companies. On one hand, public companies are publicly traded, which means that nearly anyone can own a share in that company. But on the other hand, while private companies are harder to buy shares of, they don't operate under the same legal requirements as those who are public. And in Canada, more companies are staying private for longer. Joining us now to discuss public versus private companies is Brendan Caldwell, Director at Caldwell Securities Ltd. Brendan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Theresa. Interesting little bit in your intro, though, about the legal requirements. I think we'll need to unpack that a little bit, but fire away.
I like the sounds of that. So how is the trend of companies staying private for longer affecting Canada's overall productivity and economic growth?
Well, as you say, I think there are pros and cons, but I am reasonably confident that cons outweigh the pros. Big fan of public stock markets. It's not just my job, but having looked at it with any sort of degree of objectivity, what I've seen in public markets is that they are the most profoundly democratic institutions the world has ever come up with. Because if you are an entrepreneur and you, Theresa, have an idea, in the context of the public markets, you can ask the whole world to vote on your idea. And if they like what you're doing, give you $1 or $10,000 of their money to help pursue that idea in a corporate economic fashion. And if you're successful, if you become a multi-billionaire, the world does not hate you nearly as much as they might, because they have and continue to have, they had and continue to have an opportunity to participate in your success by buying a piece of your dream. So I really do like public companies because there is, rules and regulations aside, an accountability that comes from the ability of people to vote with their money.
And what are the long-term implications for the Canadian economy if this trend continues?
One advantage Canada has is we have far more public companies per capita than the US does. Like 4 or 6 or something times as many more. It's much easier, relatively speaking, to become a public company in Canada, in part because our rules and regulations aren't as onerous, but also because, how do they say, necessity, because there is a very well-developed venture capital market in the United States for private equity, for funding up private companies. The problem with that, though, is it's the rich get richer. Only a rarefied few individuals get to participate in the best unicorn ideas when it comes to public companies, or private companies, I should say, private. Whereas I said a moment ago, the whole world, anybody can invest directly or indirectly in the shares of a public one. So the longer the companies stay private, the less that the economy, the people as a whole have ability to participate. And stock markets are the best way of creating a middle class by allowing people to, even if they're not entrepreneurs themselves, invest along with entrepreneurs and make money as long as they're making money.
And what are the advantages? Sorry, carry on.
No, please.
And what are the advantages and disadvantages of companies remaining private for longer periods?
Well, the advantage is largely to the private equity investor. It is become more of a dumping ground. Public markets have become more of a dumping ground for companies because there's the issuance of public stock is seen as the end of the road for the private equity investor, who may have got much of the growth, much of the financial rewards out of the company along the way. So I think that is a problem. I do think that in their respective industries, companies, whether public or private, are still subject to the same degree of regulation. I think the difference, though, is that public companies allow everyone to participate in the success and to vote on how well that company is being managed. I think better than, in many cases, regulators do.
And how does the shift to private capital impact average Canadian investors and their ability to participate?
Well, the trouble in Canada is that while we may have more per capita in terms of companies to invest in, the market cap of NVIDIA, for example, I think is bigger than the entire market cap of all the Canadian companies that exist. I think one US stock, and certainly if you lump Apple and NVIDIA and Microsoft together, you're vastly bigger than the entire market of Canada. That's a problem, because as to have a vibrant economy in a country as relatively small and isolated as Canada is, we need to be able to fund entrepreneurs and their ideas. And we're historically very good at that. And I would like to see us have capital markets that do encourage public listings more and more, because I think that is going to be, and has been for more than 100 years, 150 years, the secret to Canada's success ever since we built the first railroad or found the first natural resource.